What's up, guys? It's Will from Forge. Thanks for coming back to the channel. Last time on our Stoicism series, we talked about the importance of action. Because whenever there's something that you can control, you should focus on taking actions within that realm. But there's another component to life, of the things that fall outside of our control. Things that no matter what we do, no matter how much we fight, that they're just inevitabilities. And that is a moment when a lot of people begin to break, because it's very, very hard to accept things that are outside of our control, because as human beings, we naturally want to control whatever that we can. So the key to not breaking is in the willpower that it takes to accept these things as cheerfully as we can. And the greatest example of this in American history, in my opinion, is Abraham Lincoln. He was a man who struggled with depression in a time when nobody knew what that was, and suffered personal tragedy after professional tragedy, after lost election after lost election, all while struggling with a mental illness that people didn't really know what it was or how to address it. And going through all of that taught him how to accept the reality of things, even when that reality was incredibly unpleasant. So when he became president and general after general failed to put down the Confederacy, and person after person inside his own party tried to sabotage him, he knew that he couldn't control these things, but he was able to accept it as cheerfully as he could and move forward because of all this preparation that he had. So there's a way to build yourself into that person, the person that has that level of flexibility and can bend with the things that are outside of your control. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. What are the steps that people can take to become unbreakable? The first is to forge your inner citadel. Now, the inner citadel is an idea that by overcoming adversity and doing things that suck, you can build a part of yourself that's like this little castle where you can keep a part of yourself that can never be attacked or destroyed no matter what happens to you as a person. So the way Teddy Roosevelt did this is, he was a small, very frail, asthmatic boy who loved to read and learn. And his father said, look, you've built your mind, but now you must build your body. And got him everything he needed to work out, like built a gym for him. And by the time he was 23 years old, he had essentially worked asthma out of his body and became the badass military fighter, boxer, Teddy Roosevelt that we know today. But a lot of his inner strength that he deployed to being president, to being in the military, to many of the things that he did, he credited to those 13 years that he spent struggling to build his body. So do things, whether it's exercise or other things that you don't like, to constantly build up those walls so you have a part of yourself that's so accustomed to adversity that no amount of adversity can mess with it. Nobody's born with the steel backbone. It has to get built. Second thing is to anticipate the worst. So picture a CEO sitting down around, you got vice presidents here and directors there, and they say, all right, our project has failed. What happened? Now picture that the room is confused because they haven't even started the project yet. This is something called a pre-mortem. When somebody dies, they do a post-mortem to figure out, how did they die? A pre-mortem is doing that, but before you've even set out to do the thing. So you can figure out what are all the ways that you could potentially fail. So you have all the potential outcomes there. So the advantage is that whatever risks you can mitigate, you've already anticipated them, so you can take the time to mitigate them before you go out there. Now, a lot of people say that, that makes you a pessimist or a downer, but I think it's better to be a downer than to literally be knocked down when you get blindsided by something that you didn't see. So anticipate the worst so that you can prepare for any outcome. The third is to acquiesce, or to accept things that are outside of your control. Thomas Jefferson was a political genius. He wanted to be involved in politics, but most of politics, back then and now, is your ability to speak and communicate your ideas. He was terrible. And this was at a time when there were people like Patrick Henry involved in politics, one of the best speakers that we've ever had in American history. So he could have either just fought with everything he had against his natural proclivity and fought to become a good speaker, or find a different way to accomplish what it is that he wanted to accomplish. And so he found writing as his avenue to communicate his ideas because he was really good at it. Proof of that is that not only is he the sole author of the Declaration of Independence, but he wrote it in one draft. That is the rough draft that you are reading. That's one of the most important documents in the entire Western world. And that is the power of accepting what is outside of your control and accept that you may never be able to do something. Because once you accept that you cannot travel down this path, it allows you to focus on the paths that were much better made for you. And you can make a much greater impact focusing on that than trying to change reality to your will. The fourth is to love everything that happens. It's a Stoic phrase called Amor, Fati, which is to love fate. So there was a point where someone woke up Thomas Edison in the middle of the night to let him know that his factory was on fire. This had dozens and dozens of inventions and things that were in progress, prototypes, plans, so much. All of it was on fire. And Edison's response is one of the coolest responses in history. He told people to go wake up their kids so they could see the fire, because there won't be a fire that cool or that beautiful that they'll ever see ever again. And people were like freaking out, like, but you've lost so much. He's like, well, you can't control the fire, like it's already destroyed, so you might as well enjoy watching it burn. And he just spent his time and energy focusing on rebuilding, and rebuilt his factory faster than anyone thought that they could. And that reinvigoration that he felt from starting again from scratch produced even more inventions than were lost in the fire itself. So if you love what happens, you're more likely to make the most out of it. The fifth is to persevere. Nobody exemplifies that better than Churchill speaking to a tired, exhausted, repeatedly bombed England, saying, "We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the hills and in the streets, we shall never surrender." That is one of the truest keys to success, because there are times when people fail from things that are totally outside of their control. But far more people fail from quitting ever than from external events. So it is unlikely that whatever you're facing is going to defeat you if you just keep moving forward. Surrender destroys more than anything else. Just keep going, because there is no other choice. Number 6 is to be a part of something bigger than yourself. In the Korean War, in the North Korean camps that had imprisoned American troops, there was a lot of infighting, people betraying each other, even people killing each other for scraps of food. And that was on the mind of James Stockdale, the highest ranking American to be captured in the Vietnam War. He did not want this war to have a repeat of the circumstances of the previous war. So when he ended up in the POW camp, he created a support system for all of the troops there. Everywhere they would have US as their saying. And naturally the North Vietnamese thought that that was for the United States, but it stood for unity over self. And everyone there was able to endure much more than they would have been, because when you run out of energy to fight for yourself, to have other people to fight for, that's where that next round of energy comes in to keep moving forward. And their unity was so strong that John McCain, the man who ran for president in 2008 against Barack Obama, longtime former U.S. Senator before he passed away, he was a POW at that camp. And the McCain family has a long, proud military tradition. So the North Vietnamese were going to let him go just for the act of humiliation, while the rest of the troops were starving and being tortured. And John McCain refused, even though it was completely within his own self-interest to get out of that absolute hellhole in the middle of the jungle, because unity over self. You can do incredible things if you are not focused on yourself and you're focused on being a part of a bigger picture and you're focused on doing whatever you're doing for other people. 7 is the always happy principle of think about death, which that comes from a saying called Memento, Mori, which means remember that you are mortal. And remembering that reminds you that tomorrow isn't guaranteed. You know, Seneca would often write, and Seneca was ill when he was writing this, that if you close your day with everything in order, then you never need to worry about death. If everything is put in its proper place, everything's set up, everything's fine. If you die in your sleep, everything's going to be okay. Your loved ones are taken care of, everything's fine. Live each day that way. And Marcus Aurelius would talk about in his journal, reminding himself that to not rush putting his kids to sleep, even though, you know, he was the emperor of Rome, he was a very busy man and had a lot to worry about, because he knew that tomorrow it wouldn't be guaranteed, that his children might not survive the night, he might not survive the night. Who knows what was granted? So remembering that you're gonna die is one of the most powerful motivating forces, because it removes you of the illusion that you have time to waste. And it also, paradoxically, can make you calm down and remember that appreciating this moment and maybe slowing down a little bit is definitely worth it. The final principle is prepare to start again. Because there's a great Haitian proverb that goes, behind mountains, there are more mountains. So when you finally conquer whatever it is that you're looking to conquer, there's always something else. It doesn't end. It just keeps going. Just because you won this battle doesn't mean that the war is over. It's only over when you die. That's the actual resting point. So in order to get there, you need to remember that you are in one small part of a marathon. You're not in a sprint. Live your actions that way. Don't burn yourself out sprinting, and don't conquer something and think that the battle is over. To think either of those will make it that much more easy for your spirit to break when that reality is removed from yourself. So remember, always be ready to start again. And with that feeling alone, no matter what is taken from you, you are ready to go. Thanks guys so much for watching our video. If you wouldn't mind dropping a like and a subscribe, but then another like, and you're gonna click that recommended video, stop. Like first and then leave. Maybe you didn't like it. Well, maybe you think we suck, then you should feel bad for us. Pity like, we don't care. YouTube algorithm doesn't care why you're liking it, just click the like. Guys, if you want to support the channel, 50% of the profits go to charity, whether it's grabbing the book that this is based on, Obstacles the Way by Ryan Holiday, from the link below, grabbing sick merch from our website, description in the link below, whatever it may be. This is helping people who are struggling with homelessness, people start businesses in foreign countries, veterans return from war. So do your good deed for the day and drop that like, give the YouTube gods more reason to promote us. We love you.